Hello everyone, I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Kmet. Welcome to Original versus Remake. Today we are talking about It.
And It Part 2 just dropped. This is kind of a weird one because we've basically got 4 movies that we're comparing it to. We're going to try to keep it concise. I don't give a crap about spoilers for the one from 1990. You should have seen it by now. We'll try to keep it a little bit of a lid on for the brand new one that came out like 4 hours ago.
Yep. So I watched the originals yesterday and then chapter 1 yesterday. So I had like a total of 5 hours of It. And then yesterday and then 3 hours of It today.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to be spending with the clown.
It's a lot of time. That's if you're wanting to do the marathon, it's a chunk of time to put your life into it.
Not to mention the miniseries feels about 5 or 6 hours sometimes. Like, although whenever I've watched it for 5 Facts, which that video is already out, I found that I enjoyed it a little bit more than the last time I tried to watch it, which was like on a double VHS like tape type thing.
Yeah,
like,
definitely. That's the last time I watched it too.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think I even got that from the library. But to go back and look at the original, like, there are some things that are masterful, and there are some things that just don't hold up, and things that are weird. I think the kids did a much, much better performance than the adults in the It miniseries. Like,
yes.
It seemed like they were cohesive. They like seemed to have fun with each other. Like, it seemed like actual kids in a lot of ways. Maybe a little bit hacky dialogue occasionally, but they had fun with it. And all of the kids that were interviewed, except for the one that killed himself, said that it was one of the best summers of their entire lives getting to make that movie.
Is that the blonde kid?
No, the kid that played Bill in the first one.
Yeah, that was the blonde kid.
Oh, was he blonde?
I just watched this yesterday.
Okay.
Yes, he was blonde.
Yes. I was
he
looking,
killed himself?
Yeah, he killed himself when he was 27 after some movies flopped.
Oh,
He died the same
baby.
Yeah, he died the same year as Tim Ritter, like the guy who was Bill in... No, it wasn't Bill, it was Ben. It was the architect.
Didn't he die of a heart attack?
Yes.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
I thought that they did a very good job, other than really hokey, cheesy lines, but I think that was the 90s. I don't think the 90s were very, what's the opposite of cruel? Very sweet to this movie.
Yeah, the 90s didn't... Like, 80s and 90s, that wasn't very good. Also, a lot of those lines were lifted straight from the book, and there's something weird that happens with Stephen King dialogue when it's pulled direct, that it just doesn't translate as well when somebody's trying to act it a lot of times. And that's something that I've noticed about, like, Stephen King adaptations in general, is, like, you need to take the idea and you need to mold it a little bit. You can't take it direct from the text, otherwise things get really weird.
Can you give an example?
It's more about, like, whenever you've got, like, the Eurus kid and the redheaded kid getting introduced, and, like, the way they're just, like, chummy and weird for a little bit, but then they, like, settle in. It's mostly about, like, different dialogue options. Even the whole, like, beep beep Freddy type stuff, like,
Freddy?
Yeah, Freddy.
Which one's Freddy? He's the new character. No, I'm kidding. I'm giving him a hard time.
I'm just, like, it's a slip. But, like, even some of that stuff seems a little bit forced occasionally. But as far as, like, a scary movie that's trying to do a high concept, which is cosmic horror, Tim Curry brought up the entire level of it and made an insidious character that is more like a demon clown.
See, okay, I love Tim Curry's It, but because it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
He's not scary to me at all. Like, even later on, and I remember watching this as a kid, and I remember being scared, but watching it this time, it's more hilarious than not. His, like, and then, like, the whole thing of it is...
that's kind of what it felt like. It was like he was doing the bad clown act as he was murdering people.
Yeah, I guess
Which
that's
is,
true.
like, it's not scary in the, like, oh my god, I can't look at the screen way. It's scary in the fact that you've got, like...
Sadistic, kind of.
Just a, like, straight-up sadist. Like, I believed the sadist in Tim Curry more than I believed in Skarsgard.
See, I like Skarsgard's... I thought he was more scary.
He's more scary, but I'm saying, like, the want to hurt people. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I go back and forth in this. We had a 3-hour miniseries with only 20 minutes of total time for Tim Curry. And Skarsgard is all over the second one. He was a lot of the first part of the new 2017 movie, but he is all over the 2019
Well,
one.
and I thought... I was actually surprised by that because I felt like a lot of the chapter 1 was more of his different forms and not as much Skarsgard.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated how much they put him into the new one.
Yeah, and, like, there were some moments that were like that were genuinely just like disturbing. Like, I love the Hall of Mirrors thing that they showed in the trailers. Yep. Like, I love the way that worked. Even, like, whenever he's just talking to the girl at the beginning of the movie. Like, the bringing them in. The old school style of hunting that he had used every 27 to 30 years. Like, I really liked the way he pulled that off. I don't have a problem with Skarsgård at all playing Pennywise. Like, it's also weird whenever you hear Tim Curry doing, like, a Chicago-style accent. Like,
kiss me, fat boy! Like, it's just... And so, a lot of the times when I'm watching a horror movie, and I've mentioned this before, I try to put myself in the situations of the people that are in. The 1990s versions, the parts that I found the most terrifying was, like, when they were adults, and he was in the library, and then, like, blood started splattering everywhere, and he's, like, yelling at the librarian because all this stuff is happening to him, but nobody else can see. Yeah. That's scary. I thought those moments were scary. But the moments with Tim Curry made me laugh instead of be even freaked out a little. I can understand Tony's point of view of it being like, yeah, this guy is freaking crazy, but he's just funny. It's hilarious.
Well, like, I think part of it for me is like the William Gacy thing, like the clown, like where he's doing the act for the kids and everything, and the moment where a kid's never going to get away and he murders them is whenever he's doing a joke and he's showing a magic trick, and then all of a sudden they're handcuffed to a radiator. Like, so I kind of get like that vibe where it's a more sadistic thing, whereas like the Skarsgård one isn't trying to be a clown most of the time. Like, he's using
it as like a lure fish. He's using it to lure children to get closer to him, and I think they did that very, very well in the remakes.
Yes. They the time they did it best in the original was obviously with Georgie, because that was a little more subdued, that was a little more controlled, that was a little more bring the kid in close. And you didn't see a whole lot of that from the rest of the series, whereas you saw it at least twice in part 2, and I think twice in part 1, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, and like I felt like in the originals, he was more trying to scare them. My idea is that their fear tastes good.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to scare the kids instead of using his clown persona to lure them in. And I haven't read the books.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's why he comes out as a clown.
It's definitely, like, it's two things. Stephen King wanted to combine some things that are the scariest for whenever you're a kid. He thought the scariest thing in the world, like, basically was a troll under the bridge that was going to get you and drag you into the sewers, and clowns.
Crack addicts.
Yeah.
That would be, like, that is what trolls are.
Yeah, pretty much. And, like, those two things combined are basically what were the basis for doing it.
Okay.
If you look at it, what it actually is, like, what Pennywise is an eldritch horror from the Macroverse that was born before the Earth, that is the opposite of the turtle, which is a force of creation and good, and he's a force of benevolence and
which is
violence.
Spiders.
Yeah.
Spider versus turtle, correct?
Yeah, and it's not even that they're diametrically opposed, because in the Dark Tower series, like, the turtle is opposed by something else. This is just another entity that comes from the microverse that was made by Gan. I'm getting way in the weeds here. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's just weird stuff. But the thing you need to know about it is that he is an eldritch horror from the cosmos that feeds on fear.
Right.
So something like that. It's basically more ancient than human comprehension, and an evil that doesn't have any sort of limitations or thoughts towards human.
It's just
the
eater of worlds.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, in like the actual form for it, he's massive, like the size of like stars and everything. Like, the Deadlights are more of a place that embody him, but also exist as like a realm for him that's sort of a pocket. The reason why he picks kids is that he says that their fear is more pure, because like as adults they have doubt, they have like more bravery because they've seen more things. With children, it's just straight up fear, and he says that it basically salts the meat in a way that he likes.
Makes sense as to why he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just part of the persona, and it makes sense for his reason.
Children are very easy to lure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. That sounded very strange. Okay, so...
It's a lot creepier if I said it than you said.
Yeah. New game plan. We're going to talk about the 1990 Tim Curry, what we liked, what we disliked, and everything, and then compare it to both of the new ones instead of doing like what I previously said, because now we have no idea where they split the miniseries, and it's confusing. Okay, so Tim Curry's. You liked the sadistic clown.
Yes, I like both of them. And there's going to be people that are pissed about that.
Both of what?
Like, both clowns. I liked Skarsgård and I liked Curry.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
think that, like, you have to choose one or the other. Like, I think that there are aspects that are good for both. I think if you didn't have Tim Curry for this, which the other alternatives were Malcolm McDowell, which would have been okay, and Alice Cooper, which would have been weird.
No, that would have been bad.
He doesn't have the acting chops. It would have been interesting, but it wouldn't have, like, held up quite so well.
Yeah, no, that would have been bad.
But, like, the things that I really liked about the first one were the library scenes, were some of the, even, like, the first time you see, like, the balloon come up from the drain, like, things like that. But there's a lot to not really like about the first one as well. It's mostly to do with pacing.
Yeah, and it's dated. It did not age well. I think that was one of the hardest parts for me with rewatching it. I really enjoyed the Tim Curry scenes just because he's hilarious. I thought the practical effects were pretty damn good.
Yeah, most of them were very good. Like, I didn't really see any, like, weird seams or anything like that. Like, anytime they were doing practical effects, it looked good. The transitions were a little bit rough because it would, like, pan away and then it would come back. Like, it didn't have, like, live effects happening, which doesn't really bother me because that's a hell of a lot more expensive, and, like, that was made for $12 million, something like that, which, huge for a TV budget, not so huge for a lot of movies.
Yeah. And I did not think the acting in the adults was very good.
No, like, even, like, with Ritter and some of these other people that were decent actors and went on to have big careers elsewhere, like, it didn't feel like they had the same spirit put into their side of the script, or their acting, or something was just different with how that worked.
I think it was the screenplay. Like, yeah. I feel like Stephen King has a really good backbones and whatnot for writing and for stories and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I think he has a very distinct, like, skin, and I just don't think it translates very well.
Yeah, like, most of the Stephen King, like, movies we talked about, like, Pet Sematary and stuff, just aren't as good as the books. And you always hear that, but there's, like, a huge gulf in that quality sometimes. Mm-hmm. Also, with this movie, Stephen King didn't have anything to do with the writing of the screenplay.
Of the miniseries, okay.
Yeah. And Tommy Lee Wallace, the director, didn't read the book before he directed the series.
Oh,
because he
it makes no sense.
He wanted the screenplay to stand on its own, and he later really, really regretted doing that. He talked about it in the DVD commentary that he just didn't measure up.
Well, you done fucked up, dude. Why would you do that?
It was just something that he thought. Like, he's never actually even met Stephen King, so it's one of those things where it was a weird situation. He went in with a certain vision. He was the one that did the original Halloween and everything, so he's got chops for horror.
Right, but if you don't know, like, why things are happening, like, you know. So, okay, let's talk about, like, the scare factor of it. There was obviously Georgie, and the teeth, I think, was a big deal.
And they kept most of the teeth for the new one, too, like, different variations of it, but, like, because of how effective those were and how it looked, they definitely went heavy with that. And the special effects, the way, like, everything moved, the transitions between being the normal clown and all of a sudden having the teeth and the snarling face, all of that was good, but it still is dated.
Yeah. And even though it's practical, it all pretty much looks practical.
Yeah.
You have like a lot of skeletons. You have a mummy, a werewolf.
Did they have the leper in the miniseries?
No, it was a
homeless person?
It was a mummy, but that was Ben's.
Yeah.
Ben's was a mummy. Richie's was a werewolf.
Which is where, like, they originally got the idea of, like, if you can, like, put it into a form and hurt it, that's why they had the silver and everything with the slingshot.
I can't for the life of me remember the other ones, but that kind of tells you that Tim Curry's was more memorable than all of these other forms, whereas the new ones is not the case.
Yeah. The new ones, like, you remember the leper because, like, there's some gross stuff that happens in both part 1 and part 2.
The blood, I think I just watched it yesterday, but I thought all of theirs were truly good.
As far as the miniseries goes, my biggest problem with it is that the ending just didn't work.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the resolution did not seem. It was like and then it was just like meh. It was like it popped with, like, the climax, and then it just, like, there's nothing. It was so unsatisfying. Is the perfect word for it.
And a lot of that happened because they got a different monster than they actually designed. Like, they sent out all these requests and models and stuff to a California company to make the spider, and they got something completely different than what they paid for. Like, basically, it was going to be like a weird lizard thing that was like a lizard-type spider that was a lot more brawny and a lot more mobile and a lot more able to move for these models, but they didn't end up getting the one that they tried for. But more than that, it's that you didn't have the director fully understanding what the ritual of Chud was, or Chud. And, like, you didn't... Like, in the books, it's a battle of wills between, like, that actually takes place mostly in Bill Denborough's, like, brain, essentially. Like,
Bill's brain?
Yeah. Like, it's basically like they go back and forth, and it's a battle of wills where they're seeing different parts of, like, pocket dimensions and fighting in that way.
Okay.
But the special effects there were just bad. They ran out of money to do what they wanted to. They had to end it somehow. It wasn't as good as the ending with the kids. And it's just unfortunate, but that's how it played out for the original. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of funny that they use that as a comment in the new one where everybody's like, didn't like the ending. In part 2, like, how many times did they say that for Bill's work?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That was like, it is a common thing that Bill, the writer, can't do endings.
Yeah, and like
which is just hilarious.
I think they wrote that at least, they pulled that out at least 4 times.
More than that, like maybe 6?
It was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a reoccurring thing, which I think was funny. It was definitely a nod. Yeah.
Do you think that this one, part 1, was much scarier than the 1990 version?
I think, big bold letters right here, this is a perfect example of a remake gone right. This is, compared to the 2, is a masterpiece. Yes,
I would say that out of all the 4 things we're reviewing, part 1 was the best.
I like part 2.
Like I said, I like both, but I think.
But you're nitpicky because it's something of the book.
Yeah, but also, like, they did a better job of doing that in the book or in part 2 than they did it for any other book for cosmic horror type stuff. So there's a lot to talk about there, but it's going to be hard to go spoiler free on that.
But chapter 1, so it's called chapter 1.
Yes.
Is very enjoyable. You love the characters.
Yeah.
You are completely invested in their story and their trauma and everything and them coming together. I think this is... I'm just wowed with watching the 1990s and then immediately watching chapter 1. Sorry, I'm pointing over here because I have my DVD right here. Chapter 1, I'm just wowed by it.
Yeah. And there are some things that felt a little bit weird compared to, like, the first one and to the book, in that, like, Bowers is just insane, but he's also insane in the books. Like, I'm talking about the bully.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like,
there's so many names.
Yeah, there's a lot of names. And they didn't even really cover the worst of the villains, because, like, his friend, the one that actually picks him up in the second one, the undead one.
Yeah, it was the child molester.
Yeah, he's the child molester, and he's also, like, just a raging psychopath. Like, how when it finds him, he's putting puppies into a fridge so that they slowly suffocate.
Jesus.
And so, like...
But I think they did a good job. I watched chapter... What?
I was trying to remember his name. It's like Hosteller or something like that.
I watched chapter 1 last night with my best friend, and we were watching Bowers, the bully, and we were like, how could somebody have so much anger? But it's realistic anger. Like, you saw this person growing up who just hated everything and just wanted to hurt.
Yeah, and it was all his dad's fault. Like, you could see where the anger came from, so it felt like it was a little more founded. But that's a kid that has, like, that had rage issues that were then exacerbated by a clown that's like just full on able to manipulate that rage into something else.
You had a problem with him.
I had a problem in that it felt like a little bit of a caricature sometimes. Like, it was just a little too much. It's kind of like in Stranger Things Season 3. It felt like a little too much. But under the influence of the clown and everything, it makes sense. But before the clown had any influence, he was still carving his initials, like, into bed.
But even then, like, there are instances of people doing that as children, you know, hurting puppies, it's quite possible that this Eddie Bowers? No, we're getting all the names wrong. That this Bowers could have grown up and turned into Ted Bundy, you know, like, or all of those things. And I think it was a very realistic depiction of what like a true psychopath is.
Oh, like a true psychopath has a lot less rage generally. Like they're able to.
Okay,
like,
then
this is just a psycho.
A psycho, yeah.
Like he's a guy that's going to end up in jail, which he does for killing somebody young. Spends most of his life institutionalized. Hostetler would be the one that would be a psychopath that would turn into the Bundy type.
Right.
But that's like splitting hairs between like the two different types.
Which he's not a big one. I mean, he's
barely in
there.
He's a little bit in it just to be the crazy person, and that's fine. And as far as other things with the first movie, I'm trying to think of anything that I would change. Like, they pretty much nailed most of it. Like, there are things that they omitted from the movie that were in the book that should have been omitted because Stephen King was high off his ass on cocaine and he made some weird shit that shouldn't have been in there.
Like what?
Beverly fucked every one of the Losers Club when they were 12 years old in the sewers. In the sewers right before they went to fight Pennywise.
That's a thing? That's
All
real?
of them. Yeah. They ran a train on Beverly.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't put that in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm glad they didn't
I thought
do
you
that.
were saying that they put something in the
No, they put something in from...
should've-
Like, they decided not to. That's actually part of why Cary Fukunaga got fired from being the director, because he wanted to include that in there, as well as a rape scene with her with her dad.
Oh, no, that would have been
So,
good.
like, he wanted to make a horror movie that people would remember forever, and the studios were just like, you need to go away.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, I'm glad that they... Because I feel like that would have just one-dimensionalized her character.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, granted, people who have had sexual abuse have made very strange decisions, but I feel like that would have just taken away from it.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that it wasn't in there.
Yeah, it was a way to unite the Losers Club before they went in, and it was just like, you're doing a lot of coke there, Steve.
Oh, Steve.
Yeah, but, like, stuff like that didn't need to be in these movies, and I'm glad it wasn't. Purists are like, you gotta add that because it's super important. Even when I was reading it, I was like, this is not important. This shouldn't have happened. This just needs to be cut from the books because it's pointless. But, otherwise, they nailed a lot of the things from the book. There's little changes and stuff, but the biggest things that were hard to do are at the end of part 2. And I want to finish up. Do you have anything else with part 1?
I just love the kids.
Yeah.
I think their characters and the acting in it is so well done that you love them.
I feel like the kids in both of them did so much better with the stutter too.
Yeah.
Like it was weird, but
I thought James
McAvoy did fine.
I think he did a good job. I've seen somebody with like a real stutter before, and I granted theirs was way worse than that one, but I thought it was pretty realistic.
Yeah.
Especially the bike scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, so chapter 2. Be aware there may be slight spoilers. We're not here to spoil anything for anybody. We're just trying to compare the first one to the second one.
Yeah, if you're worried about it, like this is your time to bail.
Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about some things that are with the end. I'm going to talk in broad terms. We're going to talk about the early part of the movie and things we liked about it right now, though.
I thought that the adult actors were incredible. Bill Hader. Holy crap.
As soon as I saw that casting, I was like, that's absolutely perfect.
And the guy who did Eddie. I thought everybody, all the interviews and whatnot are like, Bill, you've stole the show, you've done amazing, and all that stuff. And I think he did. I'm not trying to take that away from him. But the guy who played Eddie was amazing.
Yeah, but the guy who plays Eddie did a fantastic job.
He's so good.
Like, Beverly was done by Jessica
Chastain.
Chastain. Yeah. Like, and she was fantastic too. Like, I agree with pretty much all of this. The only one that seemed a little bit off was Ben, because he went from just too much the chub boy to like they were saying in the thing, you look like every Brazilian soccer player rolled into one. But that's what happened.
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit jarring, but it was still like that's the way it went in the story.
It was
part of their
with
escape.
me.
Yeah, part of their escape from Derry is that all of them went on to be super successful, and I'm not entirely sure why. Like, they tried to cover that a little bit in the first movie,
one.
but they didn't give a full reason why. They just said that they were.
They said because of something about getting away and not remembering their true childhood made it able to succeed.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure if we all forgot our childhood, we'd still have about the same level of success. But maybe not.
Did you have a childhood?
I had a childhood. I just, I keep it under lock and key. She always thinks I don't have a childhood because I think people are stupid whenever they're kids.
He's made, the argument that he's never been a child and made stupid decisions.
No, I made lots of stupid decisions. I just don't like to talk about them.
I'm gonna make him talk about them. Anyways, I thought that this movie was scary. This movie scared me. Even, like, I jumped at parts that I knew were coming, even though they were jump scares.
I knew the jump scares were coming, and it still got me a little bit, like a little jolt and all that.
He was creepy. He scared me. I thought Skarsgard did an amazing job because he was scary. Where Curry, thank you. Well, where Curry was just funny and goofy and weird, like, Skarsgard was scary.
Yeah. Like, under the bleachers, all these, like, singular parts where you get to see him actually doing his thing. Like, just, even, like, the way the light is under him. Like, so many of the little, like, touches made this movie actually kind of beautiful for how fucked up it was.
And there was a kid sitting 2 seats away from me, and I guarantee you he's going to have nightmares about this movie for the rest of his life.
How old was he?
He was a kid. He was, like... I don't know kids' ages. Like, maybe from, like, 8 to 12, maybe.
He'll be okay. Maybe.
You're not... You have to... He was hiding underneath his coat at one point. This kid was scared. And it was great. I thought it was so genuine because we remember it from us being kids. Yeah. And that's why it scared us. Being adults and watching it, I thought it was a little ridiculous. But... watching him have the same reaction that we had to it, I thought was just a perfect example of how well this movie did.
Yeah, and it honestly, like, that's probably the best target audience you could get for this movie because you're kind of, like, you're feeling all the things that the younger characters are feeling. And I like that they did bring in the younger characters for a fair amount of, like, little exposition work. It was mostly about the adults, but they brought in just enough of those actors to make things... Yeah, like, a lot of the transitions happen in real time, too, like, where somebody climbs... like down the hole and all of a sudden it's the 1980s version of, or the, like...
It is 80s. 89?
Yeah, because it was 30 years or whatever.
27.
So, yeah, 27 years. But they, so you had that version, you had them climb out of the hole, and, like, there's just... You felt it like a memory.
It was so good.
And that was the best part of it.
It was so well done. Yeah. And all of the acting was really seamless. I believed that the person that played the older version truly was the person from... the childhood, because the casting was amazing because it looked like him. Eddie looked like him. Yeah. You know, the only one that wasn't very believable, I know you say Ben, but I say was Bill, because it just didn't have a lot of the same facial expressions.
They made Bill look a little bit more worn down than McAvoy usually does. Like, I feel like if they would have, like, cleaned him up a little bit, it might have worked better. Like,
maybe.
I don't know entirely.
It was still good.
Yeah.
I still liked it.
It never distracted from me.
Yeah. So I thought it was genuinely scary. I really liked the acting. I didn't have a problem with a lot of the problems that Tony has because he talks a lot about, what is it, cosmic horror? Yeah, like the Lovecraftian style horror where, like, if you see the dead lights, you're basically insane for the rest of your life. It's why Bowers was insane. Like, that sort of stuff. Beverly wasn't insane. Well, she also didn't see the dead lights entirely. Yeah, she did. Not in the books. We're watching the movies. I know, but I'm saying, like, they're like the deadlights work a little bit different. I'm fine with that. And the thing is, I was thinking about this on the way home. The things that I didn't like is that it was mostly a battle of wills inside their head. And at the end, like, it's sort of vignettes happening, but in a sense, it's the exact same thing. It's just they had to make it work for action. So the nitpicks I had with the final battle here actually aren't even nitpicks anymore because I had enough time to reflect on it. And I was like... Especially, like, between, like, I'm not going to say any details, like, the Bev and the Ben one, like, the contrast between the two that are happening right there, and, like, just how good that worked for me, like, the way it harkened back to, like, other, like, Stephen King movies, like, other things just felt right with that one, and, like, I really enjoyed that. I liked everyone's individual battle of wills against it. I liked that a lot, and you talk about it being a battle of wills. I mean, it goes back to if you believe, then it's gonna come true type of thing, and I thought that was really real, and I liked the personifications that they had with the last scene and whatnot with it. I thought it was really, really well done. Cinematography was really good. There was that's one of the things I love about cosmic horrors, because gravity doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to have things put together correctly, so whenever they're going through these tunnels and all of a sudden they end up in, like, a weird place where they're climbing up instead of sideways and all sorts of things like that, it was just cool. Yeah, it was very cool. I like the resolution in the new chapters than I did in the original. Yeah, and a lot. It felt good. It felt really good. Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of people that think the ending is a little cheesy.
Like, I think that they're going to think the resolution is like, what? But they also haven't read much of the genre to understand, like, the power of belief and things like that.
I was so caught up. I was so caught up in it that I was like, yes, you know.
Yeah.
Do it. It's awesome. You know, I believe in you kind of thing. And, but I get really invested into things.
Yeah, and I did too. Like, I was looking at it from a very critical lens, and most of the conclusion I ended up liking. Like, I wanted a scarier version of the final form, but we're never going to get, like, the real final form that I want to see because they don't hire deviant art artists to, like, do that sort of stuff.
But you also said that it can't be translated into human images.
Yeah, like...
So it's easy for you to say that online, like, on writing and be like, ideas. It's a form that doesn't make any sense to any, you know, and then you're like, oh, that's scary, but you can't make that into an image.
Yeah, I've never had a graphical representation of that left me satisfied. Like,
exactly.
And that's something that I'm probably never going to see because it's like, this is an incomprehensible being. But the spider thing, like, works pretty well. Like, I wanted a more vicious looking thing, but it worked well, like, for what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think they wanted Skarsgard to get more of his time to shine, and I think that was a good decision.
And there were a lot of people that were pissed off that Tim Curry wasn't at the end of the miniseries. Like,
wait, of the miniseries?
Yeah, like, think about, like, the last battles and everything. He's not even in the last, like, 30 minutes of that movie or 20-some minutes of that movie.
Because his form is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And all you can do is laugh when you look at it.
Yeah. It's easily one of the strangest, like, looking monsters, and just, it wasn't scary.
Okay.
Like, for that. But, like, the new one was a lot more mobile, a lot more terrifying, a lot more of a, like...
It moved. I felt like you like, went along with it, with everybody's story, and you got... It was a great pacing. The pacing was great for it, you know? Yeah. You got amped up and then kind of released, and, like, I felt like I was dragged along the movie.
Yeah. I think the only thing that felt long was a little bit of the fetch quest, where you have to go get your totem, or your... I think it was called a totem, or no, your
It's called a totem.
Artifact.
Oh, artifact. Okay.
And that felt a little bit long, but it wasn't enough that I was like, I'm never gonna watch this again. It's just like was just a little long.
Each story I felt like was so compelling.
Yeah.
Except for Mike. I feel like Mike did not get...
Well, Mike gets screwed in the book in both versions of the movie. It's like, he's just the home dude. We don't even get to see, like, his battle with it, like, at the end. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just, like, chilling while everybody else is having, like, this horrible, like, mindscape glamour.
Yeah, Mike got a little bit of the short end, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We can't... Not everybody can have a story.
One of the things that I really like about this, and we're going to wrap it up in a second, is... The idea of, like, glamour and magic is something where it's a complete illusion, and whenever you start seeing the seams of the illusion, that's whenever the thing's going to attack you because it knows that it's losing control.
Oh, yeah, the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah. So, like, I think that this did such a fantastic job of that. Like, whenever things start to slip, like, you don't really see it entirely panic, but he knows he has to do something quickly, and he's up against adversaries.
That like a cat in a corner?
Yeah, like, and it's something where he's actually having to defend himself, and it felt real, and it felt good to watch.
Panicky.
Yeah, and so I really liked the way they did that.
Yeah, so, okay, all those things considered, which one do you choose, 1990s or...
Definitely the new one, and if you haven't read it, the book is amazing.
I don't think I could sit through that book.
If you get the audiobook, it's 33 hours.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear about Beverly getting tag teamed by all the boys.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay. I'm okay with just watching the movie. I 100% have to go with the new ones. And it's not often that we choose a remake over the original in this show, so that's really exciting. I love Tim Curry.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. He's just...
Oh, it's also interesting, like, what would have been different if we would have got the George Romero version of the miniseries, which is what was supposed to happen, but he got pulled out.
You live in a what-if world.
I know.
Tony lives in such an...
I'm definitely for the new ones, but, like, I like to think of, like, what would the director have done differently here, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get one anyways.
Yeah,
maybe when your afterlife will have all of these things within reach so you could watch every variation of everything you've ever wanted.
Possibly.
And then you can see that celestial being that can't be named, and then you'll be terrified for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I'll just be like a lost spirit.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
But that's going to do it for original versus remake. Thank you guys for watching this far. If you like this, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit the bell. And if you really like us, go to Patreon, OVR.com/Human Echoes, and that is the best way to support us. Otherwise, just tell your friends about it. Tell us what movies you want to see on OVR, and we will talk to you very soon.